Welcome everyone to another session of Social Cafe Hangout, and we have Con Sweeney and Gail Gardner. Hi guys. I love the wave, Con. That's great. Hi Gail. Hey Gail, do you mind giving
Hello.
a summary of what's been going on in the Twitter chat?
You would do that to me. So we were discussing consistency in headers and what we share on the various social networks.
And what do you think the consensus was as far as the consistency?
That you should have some kind of consistent thing. Even some people have different headers on the various platforms, but we feel like there should be something that's consistent. Like you might have a different header but have the same photograph, for example, or you have a logo that always stays the same, just so people can recognize you.
That sounds really good. Sorry, I got to bring my lower third back instead of talking through the poster, but do people put anything special for the different social profiles?
Yeah, some people do. Like, there's some brands that change those every month. You know, like they have a Valentine's Day header and a Easter header. You know, they'll change their header depending on the time of year.
Okay, I'm going to skip the lower third because it seems to like to cover my face, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but anyway. No, I do that with one of the health places where I actually put the awareness. So it's the same. I use a logo like you would with GrowMap, but then actually add the different pictures to represent the awareness.
Yeah, I think as long as you have a logo or a photograph. What's hard is, like, I used to use Nimble a lot more than I do now, which is a social CRM, and it'll automatically go grab social networking profiles for people, and then you just tell it that no, that's not the right one, and you keep going till you find the right one. Well, if they use a different photograph on each one, then it's really hard to figure out which one is which. But if they have the same photograph everywhere, it's easy to find out.
Is that the thing that puts pictures of everybody's avatar on the back of your Twitter?
No. Nimble is a social CRM. If I add Deborah Anderson, it'll automatically go try to find your Twitter, Facebook, and it used to do LinkedIn, but I think it doesn't do it LinkedIn anymore. But it would go out and find all the Deborah Andersons that are on Twitter. And then you just X them, the ones that aren't the right one, till you get to the right one, and then you say, yep, that one's the one.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just have the little photograph to go by. So if you have the same photograph with the same background, it's easy to pick you out. But if you had a different photograph on every social network, then I would actually have to go click through all those social networks trying to figure out which one's you.
Makes a lot of sense. So you have the consistency. So like yours, I mean, obviously it's really easy to spot you with your logo.
Yeah, I got lucky there. You know, that a very high-paid graphics designer did this logo. And
That's
so
nice.
special. I mean, it's so simple, but so compelling.
Yes, it works well. Con, any thoughts on that? I'm not saying any thoughts on Gail's logo. I mean,
I just gave up on that. No, I agree that there needs to be a common element of color or imagery across. I mean, I think Gail has a good point there that if you have a different image of you, I've got some friends who will do silly things like they'll be in business attire in one picture, the next picture they're sitting at a lake, another picture it's something silly. That doesn't help. There's got to be a consistency of the look and feel. Like Deb, I probably didn't spend as much money, but I went out and I got a graphic artist to produce the materials that I use, and I carry it through to my hard copy in the real world. My business cards, things like that, use the same logos and colors going forward. So I think one of the participants tonight might have been referring to socially, where you can do different things. I don't think it's as important. But when you're talking about business, whether it's business to consumer or business to business, I think you need that common look and feel. And the other important point, and I think one of the young people might have missed it, or thought I was recommending would be identical, is that if you're taking a position in one social medium like LinkedIn, make sure you're doing the same thing on Twitter. You don't want to be like some of our politicians, where depending on the audience, you have a different opinion.
okay, I was muted on there. That was too funny. That's good. A different message. I mean, it's not good, but as far as your illustration of the
We all know what
politicians.
happens. But sometimes it happens. It can happen accidentally in a technical world where you will take a position on a certain feature, and either it changes or you change your opinion, and you've got a different opinion over there, and that doesn't look good.
That's true. I had one. I used to tell everybody that they needed VCETA, and I love VCETA. It's a great tool. But I've since then replaced it with another tool that actually works better. But I feel like, oh, now I have to stick with what, because by the time the person published it, I was on to the other tool. Oops, Con, I muted you on the feedback, but now, there we go. Good. Go ahead.
I have a problem, particularly with LinkedIn, when I do a presentation of their materials. LinkedIn will make changes so quickly that I've been up late the night before redoing my work because something came through, and I wanted to make sure I was ready for the next day.
Now, is that on posts or is that branding?
Sorry, that would be on posting on content, but it's part of the same problem for me that you've got to, if the content or the posting is different across the different mediums, you look a little disconnected, and people may ask you where you're coming from. It affects your credibility.
That's a good key, the credibility and consistency. Gail, any thoughts on that?
No, like I said, as long as they can recognize you. The whole point of branding is just so people can recognize you.
It was interesting when I was reading up on branding that, what they say, the branding, I always think of it as the actual elements, but it's more the perception that people have of you, which makes sense for the word brand.
It does.
You're more the expert, Con, on that one.
Well, so I'm the expert. I'm just getting some hands-on experience as I work on my own materials these days. And oddly enough, there are people who are very shy about doing things. Last year, I had an opportunity to present at a National Science Foundation conference at Princeton University, not far from here. And it was about the use of, they wanted somebody to come in and talk about the use of LinkedIn for developing a career. And had an opportunity to talk with some really bright young people from 4 or 5 of the top engineering schools from the graduate programs. But many of them were very leery about putting their picture out there on LinkedIn, which I found kind of surprising. And I noticed that the older they were, the more reluctance there was.
Really? I would think it was, well, I guess that makes sense. I've seen both ends.
And then you get the folks who get all caught up, should you have a black and white photo versus a color photo? Now, I'm not terribly aesthetic, but my view is I think as long as you have a clear photo, or depending on the industry that you're in, I think people who are in advertising, marketing can sometimes be a little bit creative. But I think if you're in more technical skills, like I tend to hang around with more finance types, IT types, where I think either an image or a clear vision of who you are or what your company is important.
Now, what about
cartoons don't really go over very well.
I use a cartoon, but I also use my face depending on what I'm doing. But the cartoons are logo.
That's your brand logo, which you swap. That's okay. I've seen people do their children's Crayola drawings become their logo brand. Well, my best one yet, doing research last year for a project, somebody who was a financial executive in the area around here. He had a picture of himself in a clown suit.
Wow, okay. Does that work with his brand?
No, he was a financial executive.
Oh, wait, you did say that. Yeah, I wouldn't be keen on saying, here, handle my money.
He was a professional entertainer or anything. But some people just don't understand the importance of you having that clear statement of who you are.
Well, the green hair, I'm kind of wondering if it's a lettuce leaf or something from Michael Q. Todd works because it makes him really recognizable.
Depending on who his audience is, I think it's okay. If he's dealing with marketing types, if he's dealing with, what we call up here in the Northeast, the Madison Avenue crew, he may get away with it. I think, but if you're focusing on, let's say, the big 4 consulting firms, if you're focusing on Fortune 500 companies, I'm not so sure.
That makes sense. Gail, what do you think? Con mentioned that some of the people want to change their picture frequently. What's an alternative way so that they can actually post these but not be, become a point where it's inconsistent, we don't recognize them?
Well, if they want to change it, they can change it and change all of them at the same time. But it does. It makes it. It reminds me. Was it Dear Abby or Ann Landers that used the same photo for like several decades, and people are bugging her to change it. And she finally changed it. It is a problem because it's kind of like a snapshot in time, and that's how everyone identifies with you. You know, and if you change it, you kind of throw them off a little.
I would think so. I guess I hadn't thought of that, but I wouldn't be offended, Ann Landers, Dear Abby, if they had picked a brand.
If they what?
Is it Con? Do you have?
Yeah, I think if you're a well-known celebrity and it's your trademark, you might be able to get away with it. But somebody like myself, I really shouldn't be using that picture that was me when I was 22 years old.
So no, I wasn't laughing at you. I was thinking you're starting now and then say, yeah, I know I don't look like me, but that was a few years ago.
Yeah, I think the important thing is that if it's close enough to you, it's okay. I'm not going to change my picture every 6 months, but every couple of years I'm going to refresh my portfolio just because I just want to make sure, especially when you're at my age bracket, that you don't want people to think you're trying to mislead them by looking to be something that you're not.
That's a good point. That's a really, I planned on like having a different hair color like every month or something, and then my husband reminded me, he says people won't necessarily know who you are. Like if I were Cher gets by with being blonde, and then she's to her natural brunette, and she switches it around.
It becomes your trademark. And also, and I hope I don't sound sexist here, a woman can get away with changing her hair color on a regular basis. If I showed up purple next week, blue the week after that, yellow the week after that, you might be rethinking my participation.
That's kind of sad. It's sad that it should be gender-based, but I think there is something to that.
Yeah. And, please feel free to change your hair, and I'm just going to leave mine the way it is.
And Gail?
Well, the thing about it is that it's matter how your photograph affects like what people think of you. So I've worked with people online for a long time, and I think of them a certain way, and then years into it, I see their photograph, and if they look like Mr. Clean and have earrings and tattoos, I'm like, it's like cognitive dissonance that their photo, how they come across, intellectually and in terms of capabilities, didn't really jive with the photograph. You know what I'm saying? So people might think about what, like on their photographs, I think that women especially should think about it. Men too. Men have to decide tie or no tie. Women should really think sleeveless shirts not really appropriate. Much better to wear something more business casual, which to me would say has sleeves on it. It's a headshot. You should use a headshot on LinkedIn, and it should be whatever you are trying to accomplish. If you're trying to get a Fortune 500 job, you should dress appropriately. Like he said earlier, if you're a clown, you might dress the part. If you're a musician, you might dress differently than if you were a, insurance salesman.
But that's a really good point, because if you're going to have a LinkedIn photo and you want it professional, because maybe you're doing some fun stuff right now, but you're really aiming for that career, that Fortune 500. So how do you have that formal picture then for Facebook? Or can you do a variation? Let's say you go in for your sitting, for your headshot, and you've got the suit coat on, man or woman. Maybe you have a picture with it slightly unbuttoned and the suit coat off for Facebook. Is that, but still recognizable?
That's what I would do. I would have that Facebook page with that casual, jazzy look or whatever it is, or the clown costume, if that's your thing. But if LinkedIn is going to be your primary vehicle for your professional career, whether you're self-employed like we are, or you're part of the corporate world or the academic world, I think, to Gail's point, you've got to dress the part. Otherwise, you're just going to hurt yourself.
Makes a lot of sense. And if people have an urge to change their photo, you can do that with the covers and the headers.
Mm-hmm.
And you can still put your photo into it. But I found that to be very helpful. Like with the health organization, I left the logo as a profile pic, but I would change the headers all the time.
It works.
Or like Gail recommended with the like Valentine's Day coming up, where you can change that. So that's something. Like I mentioned, I did it for awareness, but there'd be 3 spots on the grid, and of course I use Canva to do it because Canva has wonderful grids. You leave 3 spots with a logo, and then put something else in the other spots to represent whatever awareness it was.
Right. I'd like to just let people know, I kind of understand the people that are hesitant to use their photographs. We have to be aware that every photograph you put, anywhere you put it, is now part of the public record. And so you may think you look perfectly in fashion right now, but how are you going to feel about that photograph 2 decades from now? You know, when you just got laid off at 45 and you're looking for a new job and you've got this wild photograph that they might find when they look for you online. You have to keep in mind that all the photographs everywhere are part of you now.
It's a very good point. And also the other consideration is people who have been the victims of stalking or crimes, people who may have physical disabilities, you know, they may be uncomfortable with putting the picture out there, and you know, that's something that I think is there's a fairness point there that I don't think we as a society have really figured out yet. Not everybody looks like George Clooney or Angelina.
I would actually like to see that, because I actually have this situation, and that's why I don't use my photograph as much as my logo. And I will tell you that I have had sites, multiple sites, say that they would rather make me use my photograph and risk getting murdered than allow me to do something on their site without using a photograph.
Do you find that's discrimination?
I find that I feel like that's strange to me, because if I said to you, Deb, I love your writing and I'd like to publish your content, but I want you to use your photograph, even though there's a guy out there who wants to come kill you, and if you use your photograph, he can find you. I don't care whether you get killed or not. You have to use a photograph. That's the position that they're taking, and I could name several big sites, but I'm not going to, that took that position with me. And you know, they don't really quite comprehend it. They might now. Ironically, I just looked this person up. Just every once in a while, I look to see, you know, where is this person now? Because I've changed locations several times to make sure that he can't find me. And ironically, he's been arrested twice recently, once for theft and once for robbery. And robbery means he threatened someone with something.
Yeah, that's true. Versus just a theft.
It's obviously not my imagination that the guy is dangerous. In fact, you know, other people are aware that he's dangerous. But I didn't start using my photograph again until I started writing on the LinkedIn blog, and they deleted what I had in there. I had my logo, and they deleted it. I put up a cartoon person, and they deleted that. And then I said, okay, it's time to make this decision. I've relocated twice. I'm in a different state. He has no idea where I am. I'm going to put this photograph up there, but I use a photo that's not the clearest photo. That's not a brand new photo. Because now we have, people have to recognize that we have facial recognition capability, which means anyone could find out where you are because you happen to walk by a camera somewhere. Or someone happened to catch you in the background when they were taking a photograph with their cell phone. And so facial recognition and RFID and all the stuff that's coming is going to make it far more difficult for someone in the position I'm in, which is a whole lot of people, by the way, to evade that person. Fortunately for me, he barely knows how to turn a computer on. If he were computer savvy, he would be really dangerous.
That makes a lot of sense.
Because I know he's not, it's not as dangerous.
But it seems like society has to catch up as far as being able to have maybe an exception. Like I think now they have different exceptions out there for other things. They should make one that if you have this situation, check this box and then make an exception.
I have, like I said, I've been living this situation for years. I have talked to multiple people who I respect, who basically just said, we don't care, either use your photo or don't, or we can't deal with you. And so, you know, basically put you in the position of decide, risk your life and do it or don't. There's your choice, because our thing is you have to have a photograph.
Don't go pound salt. I mean, I think that's a very narrow-minded, stupid point of view. Just my 2 cents.
Well, I mean, like I said, I have hit that situation multiple times with various size companies, and they basically all said, "Well, gee, we're really sorry about that, but you have to use your photograph." And you say, "Look, this person could come after me and kill me if I use my photograph," and they're like, "Well, that would be too bad, but you have to use your photograph." I'm like,
That's not funny, but that is really sad. That's pathetic.
Well,
I used to work for that guy.
Yeah, and honestly, there's a lot of women in that situation. There's some guys in that situation too, but there are a lot of women in that situation, and there's really nothing they can do. Like, you can't get the person arrested or anything. If you can't get them locked up and have them keep them, you just have to disappear. That's all. That's the only good choice you've got.
Mm-hmm. We could do a whole session. I could tell you stories too, and yes, there are women that are scary. There's a few that I could tell you stories about.
There's psychopaths of both sexes, but.
Yep. So what is a tip that we can leave people with, as far as either on the area of post, status message, or on like graphics and social profile consistency?
If I could use one word, I would say just consistency across all in your message, your branding, your content.
I like that. Gail?
Right, and I want to point out that your brand, your business part, is separate from like your Facebook personal page. All right, you don't have to have your personal Facebook be your brand like we do. I mean, you may, and I do. My brand and my personal are kind of the same thing. But a lot of people, they're separate. They have a business page on Facebook. They have a business page on LinkedIn. They have a personal profile on LinkedIn, which is their career, basically. And then they have their personal, separate, mostly friends and family, people they know in real life, on their personal Facebook, and it's not a public Facebook. And so in that case, you don't have to be consistent. It's only when you have a business that you need to be consistent.
You make a very good point there. That segmentation between personal and business, or multiple businesses. You may have somebody who has a corporate career, but they also have something, which is the term moonlighting, for want of a better one, where they're doing something on the side. So they could be different views to that.
Wow, Con, that is another half-hour discussion. We should also do a Twitter chat just on that segmentation. Is a really interesting one.
Well, you do that, Deb. Deb has her musician persona, and she has her social media person, and they're actually separate brands.
Exactly.
I'm still trying to figure out how many personas Deb has.
I don't know. I counted 6, and then I tried to kind of, like Gail said, as far as the 2, I tried to blend some of them into, like the psychology one went in with the music in the 5 Hugs a Day campaign, and then all the rest of it went in with the social. So I'm trying to just have 2, because otherwise I don't know who I am. But again, that could probably be an hour-long discussion. I'll introduce you to each one of the Debs.
Do they all have the same name?
They all have Deborah somewhere in there, but there's just different profiles. And when I started, I think I had 6, and I've added more like campaigns, but I've tried to pull them down into just 2, just the musician and the social. So, well, thank you guys for joining us. It's been a fun hangout.
Thank you. Pleasure as always.
All of you watching, join Gail tomorrow night, Web Tools TV. It's the same time as the Tuesday Night Social Cafe, so it's 6 p.m., 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time, Web Tools TV. And tomorrow night, we will be talking about Canva, and Gail will be the featured guest. Thanks all. Catch you same time. Same time, same place next week.